They have literally been doing nothing but stealing supplies this entire time, not even pretending like they're going to come up with a plan of how to take down the tyrannical government. I get that they're a group of literal children, but come on, at least try to act like you're going to be doing something other than squatting in a cave for the rest of your lives. Hello and welcome to Precontation Points Video Snark. If you came here because you thought that this was an audiobook, please stick around and maybe learn some reading and listening comprehension skills. I read books, discuss what went wrong and how they can possibly be fixed. I'm continuing my read through of the Color Theory series by Ashley Bustamante. Not the first video, go check out the others, links are posted below. Chapter 5. Ava wakes up the next morning and gets ready to leave. However, when she goes to Elm to get the invisibility devices that they made, he's holding up something that's been crushed. It's the devices. They both agree that somebody working from the inside is trying to destroy the rebellion. Although I have to ask, isn't the magic the important part here? Ava was invisible while wearing the dress or the locket. The item doesn't matter. So why did crushing all 6 lockets somehow break the magic over them? Ava says that she'll go by herself, and Elm says that he wants to go with her, but she says no, that it's now more important than ever that one of the group leaders remain behind. Blanca shows up and Ava explains what happens. Blanca then produces one of the invisibility devices, the one that she'd used when they broke into the school 4 days earlier. She says that she forgot to return it when they got back to the cave, was going to do it later, but then was too lazy to do it. The three of them discuss the plan of sending Ava with the locket she wears all the time, Blanca with the locket she forgot to return, and Sammy to recharge the devices, but that leaves them one locket short. Ava again reminds Elm of how little they know Sammy. Simply because he vouched for her and knew her when they were children does not convince Ava that Sammy is somebody that they can trust. We'd have to alter her clothes, of course, and her hair. The yellow would be a dead giveaway. I had this same thought in the first book, but it would really stink to be a natural blonde in this world, especially if you're not even a yellow magic user. Unless this book is seriously trying to convince us that all red magic users are gingers, all yellow magic users are blonde. But what would that mean for blue magic users? Black hair? And that only raises further questions for people like Elm who are green magic users or purple magic users. In the end, they decide that since Sammy hasn't been in Magnus for over a decade and her face isn't plastered everywhere, she doesn't need to be invisible at all, but she does need a makeover, even if it's temporary. So Ava and Blanca go to her and tell her this. She practically throws a tantrum like a small child when they tell her about the second sabotage in less than 24 hours, which, calm down there, babe. I know it's upsetting, but no need to throw a fit. She also doesn't want to get a makeover, but agrees after Ava tells her that this is all Elm's idea. It so happens that there's a girl who had previously been known for her fashion sense in Prism. After joining the rebellion, she helped the other students transform their uniforms into outfits that were more suited to their personal tastes. After explaining the situation to Gemma, she asks that Sammy sit on a styling chair. She then pours something over Sammy's hair, which makes it all weird and glossy. Gemma explains that they can't manipulate living objects, but she can manipulate things that are on living things. And this is one of the better parts of the series, the attention to small details like this. So Gemma turns Sammy's hair a dishwater blonde color and says that it's a lot harder to do that kind of color than, say, something like hot pink. And then before anybody can ask, Gemma transforms Sammy's clothes into something equally bland and boring. She reassures Sammy that it's 100% temporary, and the girls thank her. Chapter 6. Sammy is whiny about being tired and not being able to go as fast or as far as the red magic users. Eva tries to cut her some slack because of that, but also knows that literally everybody else, including Elm, would have pushed past their physical discomfort. Blanca is also really over Sammy's stank attitude. Eva thinks about when she was being tortured, Elm sent her a boost of emotional energy to get her through it. In turn, Eva tries to send some of it to Sammy. Sammy instantly knows when the energy hits her and gets angry. And part of me gets it because Eva is mostly untrained in yellow magic and could seriously hurt somebody, but mainly I kind of want to tell Sammy to sit down and shut up, that nobody is forcing her to hang around this rebellion. At last we reach the city. Like Prism, there are benefactors at every turn. However, there is so much bustle that as long as we're very careful, we run a lot less risk of being noticed here in our invisible states. I am once again asking why there weren't any students shown at Prism besides the fact that the school was clearly still open. In the city, they decide to hit up a grocery store since the lack of items there would be less likely to be noticed. Inside, they huddle by the freezers to hide their voices, and Ava tells Blanca to only grab plant-based items since the magical copier can't do things like cheese. There's literally nothing for Sammy to do now that they're here, and all purchases are 100% on cards. Ava tells her to browse and act natural, but then wonders if Sammy knows how to do that. Ava is filled with a lot of guilt over their need to steal. She wonders if it would be possible for her to one day come back to the store to repay them. As they're leaving, they pass by the library, but it has caution tape all over it and is crawling with benefactors. A sign says that they're closed for renovations following Elm's attack, which I don't know how much time has passed, but it has to have been at least a couple of months since then. How long does it take to fix things? Kind of weird if you ask me. Ava ignores the horrified looks from Sammy and Blanca and follows a benefactor inside. There she finds that they're putting weird yellow devices inside of each computer before reassembling them. Which, again, why is that taking months and months to do? She wants to smash some of them, but eventually realizes that it wouldn't do anybody any good, especially herself. Outside, Blanca says that they need to get out of there, but as the three of them turn to leave, they see Jace, who is the only known person who could see through their invisibility. Ava tells Sammy to act natural before she and Blanca duck into an alley. When Ava pokes her head around the corner, she sees Sammy staring in horror at Jace, and it occurs to Ava that if Sammy was close with Elm before the genocide went down, then it's likely that Sammy and her family were also impacted by the Reign of Terror. Which, good. I'm glad if Sammy can finally begin to understand the gravity of the situation. Jace passes right by where Sammy is standing and pauses when he sees her, as if he knows her. After a moment of awkwardness on Sammy's part, she insists that she has a lot of siblings and then asks if Jace works with Celine. Jace is satisfied with this answer and goes on his way. Blanca and Ava hurry to recollect Sammy, and she doesn't hesitate to leave with them. Chapter 7. Everybody is happy when the three girls return from their trip to get supplies. Ava hates that they can't trust anybody anymore and vows to put the food under guard from here on out. Ava then tells Elm about Sammy's run-in with Jace in the city. He explains that Sammy was always tagging along with them to his lessons, so she and Jace know each other fairly well. Never mentioned is the decade-ish that Sammy has been gone. Elm isn't exactly that convinced about Jace having bought Sammy's story, however. Ava tells him to relax. Now that they have food again, they don't have to leave for a while. But Ava can't stop thinking about how there's someone intent on destroying them who's staying in the cave, and how serious Elm has been looking recently. She obviously wants the carefree-looking Elm back, but I'm not quite convinced that the Elm she's looking for wasn't anything more than a carefully constructed mask meant to fool the world. 3 days later, and nothing else has happened. Ava is hopeful that whoever did it acted out of anger and frustration and now regrets it. While going around doing maintenance work on the cave with Elm, they come to the common room area where everybody usually hangs out during the day. She's so happy to see people commingling, especially the mixture of blue and red magic users. However, she knows that there's still a long way to go for everybody to get over their brainwashed mistrust in yellow magic. Even she admits that she's still working on the entire me first attitude Celine installed in her and the entire we live in a society mindset she now has to live by. Sammy then interrupts the peaceful moment, much to Ava's irritation, except that Sammy's upset is for an actual valid reason. Bree found a wanted poster of Sammy in the forest. The narration glosses over the fact that Bree and Jazz had been out and so close to the school. Ava can't fault them for that and decides to let it go for now. Sammy is beside herself with terror. I'm honestly kind of glad that she 100% understands exactly what's going on here and everything that's at stake. Elm says that it's safe and that he's been hiding out in the cave for a while now, but when he says it a second time, he seems less certain of everybody's continued safety. Bree then mentions that they found something else in the forest. They produce a jar with a red butterfly in it, something that keeps being mentioned over and over whenever they go out. Bree and Jazz are hopeful that one of the red magic users will be able to heal it. But when Ava opens up the jar, there's a mechanical ticking noise coming from the butterfly and tells them to break it. Elm takes a better look at it, but announces that it can't transmit anymore because it's too badly broken. But he says that he wants to take a closer look at it with Kato. Ava says that she's seen several of those butterflies, and Sammy also says that one of them got into her face in Violet City, which she thinks might be the reason why her face is now plastered all over wanted posters. Bree jokingly calls them buggerflies as a narrative way to distinguish them between actual butterflies. The next morning, Ava wakes up and kind of senses that something is off. It's oddly quiet in the cave and dark. Elm has these magical lights that turn bright and then turn off according to whatever the sun is doing, so she thinks that it's still night. Nikki comes in and tells her that somebody broke all of the lights. Ava gets a little book light, and the two of them make their way to the common area where a bunch of people have already gathered. Elm is in the center of the room trying to fix all of the lights. As soon as they get there, Nikki leaves almost immediately with Blake to go round up anybody else. Sammy comes in a second later and people start flinging accusations at her, but none of these problems happened until she showed up. Sammy insists that she would never do anything to hurt Elm. Ava still isn't sure that she can trust Sammy, but also acknowledges that Sammy's singular allegiance is to Elm. When people start asking why they can't get into Sammy's mind to determine if she's doing all of this, Ava says that nobody's going to be doing anything of the sort, but that they'll get to the bottom of this. Chapter 8. Later, as and Ava put the lights back into place to try to come up with some plan of action, they don't come up with anything solid, but Ava does think about white magic briefly. She knows that it would be difficult to do it again, what with only 2 yellow magic users and her own untrained yellow powers. She asks him about what would happen if they were to combine different types of magic, which how long has it been since Ava discovered that she could do yellow magic? I get that it's a stressful time for her, but the first thing that I'd want to do is to test out the limits of what orange magic can actually do. Not to mention the fact that Elm can literally make physical objects with his green magic. Lord only knows what purple magic could do. And it also stands to reason that there might be other mixed color magic users in their group. It harms nothing to ask. I suspect most are growing tired of being at the mercy of their enemies without taking some kind of action. They have literally been doing nothing but stealing supplies this entire time, not even pretending like they're going to come up with a plan of how to take down the tyrannical government. I get that they're a group of literal children, but come on, at least try to act like you're going to be doing something other than squatting in a cave for the rest of your lives. Later, Ava and Elle meet up with Kato, Blake, Nikki, Jazz, and Blanca, or as I like to call it, all of the named characters. She explains to the readers that this is a group of people that she can trust and that all of their magical skills are fairly diverse. Even tell them about how they accidentally discovered white magic and how it's the same barrier around Magnus. This only deepens the others' distrust in the government, since you need yellow magic in order to create white magic. They know that there must be more yellow magic users out there somewhere. Avon continues on to explain how Elm's green magic allows him to create physical objects from nothing, and she thinks that if they were to actually look into this, then they might discover something wonderful. However, Jazz is skeptical, which Ava understands as it's been drilled into their heads from quite a young age that experimenting with magic could lead to disastrous results, but Ava thinks that it would be good to find out the limits of what they can actually do. The narration never addresses this, but it's likely that the knowledge of this is being actively suppressed. She partners all of them up, with Kato being the odd man out. Ava tells them to hold hands, which they do, and to focus on bring energy to their clasped hands. And then Blake and Blanca end up kind of zapping each other, which makes them start yelling at each other as well as Ava. They're angry that they're being used as test subjects in this, despite Ava saying that they can't keep hiding in a cave forever. Blanca leaves in a huff, and Jazz is quick to follow after her, but Blake and Nikki say that they're on Ava's side about this, even if they might get some shocks or worse. Nikki then makes the paper with an excuse and drags Blake away, leaving Elman alone with Ava. Except that there's zero mention of Kato having left, and I went back and reread this section like 3 times to make sure that I didn't miss him leaving. He wasn't mentioned after Ava partnered everybody up and mentioned that Kato was the odd man out. Editors? Who are they? Anyway, now that Ava and Elm are alone, she repeats that it was a stupid and dangerous idea. Elm has literally nothing to say, kind of does an oh well, and then that's it. Literally all in any progress is thrown out the window simply because 2 kids got their hands zapped a little on the first try. Thanks for listening to my Book Snark on YouTube. New videos are up every Monday, but stick around because I sometimes drop random videos on other days too. Just as a reminder, even if you can't financially support me, there are other ways to help me out. The first is watching this video as well as all my other videos. It's also important to like and subscribe. Finally, you can share this video with all of your friends so that they can help as well. If you're already caught up with all of my videos, you can go to Tumblr for my main book snarks, always free and updated every morning. The only edit to Patreon is to become a member without paying. You'll get access to the same things on Tumblr, but on Patreon. Supporters can have access to so many more book snarks starting at $1 a month. Also new is a 1-week free Patreon trail, so be sure to check that out. Special thanks to Dawn, Phoebe, and Nikki for supporting me on Patreon already. Also, a huge shout out to Bunker Bash for making a sizable one-time donation. Thanks! If you want to hear your name in my video next week, either support me on Patreon or make a one-time donation. Do you like my snarks so much that you want me to snark your writing? I do that too. For just $6 per chapter, I will tell you how awful that your writing is. But not to worry if you feel like you couldn't take the criticism. I also offer regular book editing as well. Just $10 per chapter. You can contact me on any of my social media platforms if you have further questions. If you want to read some of the things that I've written, you can purchase my works on Amazon. I have a slew of spicy short stories and 2 full-length novels. I also frequently run flash sales on my stories, and if you don't follow me on any social media, you might want to do so just so you can know when I might be offering things for free. Links for everything will be posted below. See you next week, guys!